They build and maintain power lines that sweep across the landscape, arteries that pump electrical life to our cities and towns. They're taken for granted when the weather's good, and we anxiously await their help when it's not. They are electrical contractors and linemen of the Nik IBEW team. But over the past few years, one team in particular from O'Connell Electric and IBEW Local 1249 has developed a side specialty, and they're at it again. General Foreman Randy Fletcher.
Let me tell you what's going to happen here. Nik Wallenda is going to start out here on the ground. He's going to climb up this tower all the way up to, or in an elevator till he gets to the top, and then he's going to go from the Marina City West Tower. He's going to go all the way to the Leo Burnett building, and it's going to be all uphill. It's about 80-foot difference from in elevation. When he gets onto this side at the Leo Burnett, he's going to come down Leo Burnett, and when he gets down there, he's going to walk across the bridge, get back into the West Tower building, and go all the way back up to the top again, where he's going to put on a blindfold and go from the West Tower to the East Tower blindfolded. And then when he gets done, he's coming back down, and that will be his event. And our event is to put the wire up for him.
For this collection of Nik and IBEW pros, this event is a situation of been there, done that. They hung the wire for Nik Wallenda across the Niagara Falls when the king of the high wire performed in front of thousands of onlookers in 2012. And they hung the wire across the spectacular isolation of the Grand Canyon last year. You could really say that this job is the same, but it's different.
Different pulling equipment. We don't have the huge equipment. It's a much smaller scale, and it's in an urban environment. Most of the two other Grand Canyon was remote, no one around. This we got buildings and windows and people all over the place, and things that we have to deal with.
We started out with guys that we work with every day, guys that are on different projects that have different skill sets that can do anything that needs to be done.
Unlike with other walks where helicopters, huge cranes, and tensioners were used to pull the wire across the expanse, this time, for walk number 1, the wire was laid out on the Dearborn Street Bridge and then lifted into place 600 feet above the river below. To accomplish it, the work had to be done in the wee hours of the night. After a strategy session with Nik Wallenda, his team, and the O'Connell crew, the Chicago police closed down the area. Then the guys used super tuggers, which they had mounted atop both the Marina City West building and the Leo Burnett building, and rope to slowly hoist the wire into place. While this was going on, crews on the ground used the guide wires, which were already attached, to pull the main wire clear of any obstructions on the way up.
We needed to engage the services of some organization that had the capability to deal with very large, long-span wire rope, and found O'Connell Electric. That's a bunch of people that doesn't have quit in their vocabulary. They can figure almost anything out. They can solve problems that nobody foresaw.
Unlike the Niagara Falls and Grand Canyon walks in which the local 1249 guys hung pendulums to keep the wire from swaying, this time 36 sway guys were positioned across the main wire and fastened to Mother Earth.
When we walked over Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls at first, there was no way to use a guide wire. There's nowhere to put one. So we decided we were going to use these pendulums. Same thing with the Grand Canyon. By the time we went that low, the cables that we would have to use would be so big that that 2-inch cable would have turned into a 5-inch cable. It just didn't make sense. It was just impossible. So we had to use pendulums instead. Now, this is more traditional here in Chicago, walking between these skyscrapers. We're able to stabilize the wire the way that my family has for generations, which in the end makes it much safer for me. Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, that cable was moving quite a bit. Those pendulums did slow it down, but still they began to rock. This cable should be really solid under my feet and not go anywhere.
While the crews on the ground and on top of each building cooperated to get the wire secured into place, the weather did not. A storm front blew into the area. And man, did it ever. Working atop a Chicago high-rise well past 3 in the morning, in winds clocked at more than 60 miles an hour, the crew worked while temperatures tumbled, generally making life pretty miserable. Foreman Randy Fletcher at one point ordered everyone inside, where they took a break from a very angry Mother Nature. But by sunup the next morning, Wallenda's wire was in place. This time around, one end was pinned atop the Marina City West building, where he'd begin his walk. The other was secured around a 30-inch beam that supported the Leo Burnett building's cooling system on its roof.
Wire 1 looks great. I just got a picture from my lead engineer, and the wire looks incredible. He said it's extremely sturdy. The guys worked all through the night last night. I admire them for all of their hard work, working through the evening, and working through some rough weather too. You know, these guys are amazing. These guys from O'Connell and from the IBEW Nika, these guys are the ones that have to go out there when we don't have power. They're the ones that have to go out in that horrendous weather and fix those power lines. So I admire them a lot for that, and they had to deal with a lot of that last night while putting up the wire. Those guys from O'Connell, I've got a great relationship with them. I trust those guys with my life. This is the third time in the largest events that I've ever been involved in, they have rigged that cable. There is definitely a bond between me and them. There's definitely a trust, thing. I have to trust those guys, and I have no doubt whatsoever. I'm completely confident. I was able to go to my room and go to sleep last night while that wire was being rigged. Very seldom in my career, other than when they're rigging, do I go to bed and go to sleep while they're rigging.
So after this wire was secured and tensioned, the work for the Nika IBEW team still wasn't done. There was the matter of the second wire. It needed to go up as well. And for that section, Nik would walk across blindfolded. Wire number 2 would cross a shorter expanse, but that didn't mean it was any less involved. That's because the main wire on which Nik would walk, and the wires that would anchor onto both the buildings, and the sway guys that had to attach from the wire to the anchor wires, all had to come across at the same time. Complicating that situation even further was the fact that the location of the anchor wires, the 4 places where they would be secured to Marina Towers east and west, changed the morning of the install. Nothing like a little math with someone's life on the line to get an IBEW lineman's brain kicked into high gear in the morning.
Well, we wound up having to make a bridge, a rope bridge, and we wound up with a main walk cable and then 2 anchor cables below that, roughly 15 or 18 feet, whatever it is. And we had to space that equally, so when they start pulling tension on the cable to keep it from swaying, it'll be all even and steady and there won't be any swaying and bouncing and rolling.
As the system of wires worked its way across, it looked more like a bungled Christmas tree lighting job than any part of a high wire act. But by day's end, it all came together. When the work on this wire was done, it was easy to see and appreciate all the thought and effort that went into it all. Nik walks on top of the wire, and it's held together and in place by the others. It's really the same approach to any suspension bridge. This time around, the structures of both Marina City East and West buildings would anchor the line, or bridge. Basically, matching slings run around the base of each tower were used to secure the wire. Then, all that was left was bringing the wire to the proper tension desired by the Wallenda team.
We're at 7460 right now.
Finally, after months of preparation and 5 days of actual installation, O'Connell Electric and the crew from Local 1249 retreated to the background. It was showtime.
Here in downtown Chicago, already a massive turnout for this epic event.
There's a lot of firsts. There's the first time that I've ever walked up a 15-degree incline from one skyscraper to the other. It's the highest skyscraper my family's ever walked in the history, over 200 years in our family. I am going to be walking a second portion of that wire, which is the first time I've ever walked 2 different wires in one setting like this, one time, which I will be doing the second part blindfolded. So there are a lot of firsts.
we watch him do his job as he's been watching and his crew's been watching us do our job. We have excellent training from Nik at IBEW. He has his training that he does day after day. So with everything put together, we have a good event, and it's good entertainment.
Then, after 2 jaw-dropping, heart-pounding trips across the Chicago skyline, it was all over. Another couple of Nik Wallenda records in the books, and another successful, if a little unusual, accomplishment by the Nika IBEW team.
We were happy to do it again. I mean, he's becoming a regular client of ours, and it seems to be every yearly gig for us, so it's fun.
Up next for O'Connell Electric and the crew from IBEW Local 1249, they're off to the U.S.-Canada border to dismantle this old tower at the Peace Bridge from Buffalo to Port Erie, Ontario. No crowds, no high-rises, no network TV crews, just them and their work. With a special and heartfelt thanks to General Foreman Randy Fletcher and each and every member of his crew, this is Dominic Giratano for Electric TV. Miss this story? Want to see others? Whether it's on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, or online, ETV is everywhere.